Hi, this is Professor Amanda Kirby. I'm here today in National Inclusion Week to talk to Ross, who's the CEO of Recite, and Michael, who's the marketing manager. Ross and Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
I think weeks like this are particularly important because it highlights what inclusivity is, and it's not about doing something this week, tick the box. It's really about awareness raising and then embedding your changes across the year for everybody. So it doesn't become this week we're doing inclusivity and next week we're doing LGBTQ. I think we've got to move away from tokenism to action and sustainability.
I completely agree, and I think it all lies in a couple of different places as to what level up the food chain with regards to management does it go to, and is there somebody responsible for it? Because you tend to find if somebody's responsible for inclusivity within an organization, then it becomes a long-term yearly thing. If it's something that becomes an organizational initiative without an owner as such, then it kind of can almost be tokenism that, not on purpose, but can be maybe dropped in 3 or 4 months time or not given as much concentration in 3 months, 4 months time, because there's something else that's very important that they are also dealing with. So.
Yeah, I think that's very important. It's inclusion isn't just for Christmas.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
I wonder if I can ask you, Ross, what creates an inclusive workplace? What do you think is important?
I think the fundamental overarching theory is you've got to treat people as individuals. We all have individual needs. And if you take care of those individual needs, whatever they may be, you are heading in a very strong step towards being an inclusive employer. So instead of kind of putting somebody in a box or putting somebody in a group, it's all about the person, the individual, and how you can assist them.
And I think it's really important, we talk about people who are dyslexic or people who are autistic, but actually we're all often lots of different things, which mean we've got different needs. And it might be that English isn't our first language, or we find reading information is harder to read, but we can spell okay. Nobody falls into those very discrete, neat boxes, do they really?
It's true. It's true. We're all on a scale at the end of the day. And the strange thing is, if you get somebody who is, if this is a term, kind of lightly dyslexic, they could be closer to somebody who would be classed as non-dyslexic than somebody who would be classed as more severely dyslexic in a different way. So we're all on a scale, and we've just got to treat people, as individuals wherever they are in that scale and help them in any way we can.
Yeah, I think an employer could, look at resources of multiple ways. So, a piece of writing or a long document could be something that we put into, an audible file to help people. For handbooks, I suppose, for instance, when you're coming on board to a new company can be scary anyways, and then on top of you having this maybe hidden disability in the back of your mind. So I think an employer has has that responsibility to be able to foresee little things like this and be able to help different people with, for instance, a multiple media handbook would be a good idea. So like you said, just little things like that. I think people need to have a think about every step and how they can help people in different ways.
At this time, it's been really challenging working remotely for some people, and working from home has been a new thing for a lot of people. How do you think we can be effectively supporting people remotely if they've got some access challenges as well?
And this is one of the interesting things, because something that works for somebody who's dyslexic, it'll also work for somebody who's non-dyslexic. And starting this company out has been a very, very interesting journey of why I respond in a certain way to certain things. And I respond a certain way to colour. And I was like, why? Why is this the case? So I studied the person who found it. And the name escapes us, but it was a guy who went to prove through his PhD that colour didn't affect emotions and didn't affect how the brain functioned. And in the end, his thesis, he come 180 degrees and realised it did affect, and it affected so much with regards to emotion, but also with regards to how fast you read and how well you digest information. So, yellow background for me helps me digest information quicker. But if you're not dyslexic, you will have a color that will help you read faster. It will help you get less eye strain, and it will help you digest that information much better as well. And I find that phenomenal, that everybody's potentially got a color out there that can increase their performance in something, and they don't know it yet.
But I think that's one of the important things about what we're talking about inclusion, is we've all got strengths and we've all got some challenges. And actually, if we can just tweak some where our challenges are, it doesn't matter whether you're somebody who's got a label of dyslexia, or you've got somebody who's got memory loss or visual impairment or hearing loss, or none of those things. We can all optimize what we do by making some tweaks. And accessibility isn't about big things often, it's often about very small things that make a big difference.
It's about small tiptoes in the right direction. But it comes back to my first point, inclusivity. It's all about the individual need. So you mightn't be dyslexic, but you might be helping somebody to improve. Therefore, you are being inclusive to that person.
And it shouldn't be by label, should it? That's the thing.
Exactly. And eventually, I think bit of a bold claim, but I think the labels will fade over many years. It might be many decades, and we'll start realizing that we're all on a type of scale, and we'll all sit somewhere. And that's when it comes back to the whole neurodiversity conversation.
It does. Diversity. Sorry.
No, I was just about to strengthen the point about how we all have strengths and weaknesses, and maybe because I'm dyslexic, but that enables me to be able to think about many strands of tasks to a deeper level. Mm-hmm. So when I'm getting carried away in a conversation because of enthusiasm, but I've gone down a rabbit hole, that might be due to my dyslexia, but that's a strength because I can remember and get engaged into things in a deep level. And that's just one example of many of the little things that maybe I don't see in my day-to-day life, but people who maybe have autism or ADHD and work in technology and are fantastic coders because they can analytically think in that right way. That's a fantastic strength to have. But other things, simple maths and English, might not get them to that place in their career. But technology and being accessible helps that individual shine better when it comes in the workplace because they're getting support with these things that they might not be, very good with. But it shouldn't have to tarnish their true talents in a workplace.
And I think that's the thing about if we make things accessible, it means those people who are motivated and interested in an area and have got skills in that area, whatever that is, can actually shine, but it also makes teams work more effectively together. Because if we work out what all our strengths and challenges are, and get our profile, we can then bring that together and work much more effectively as a team.
Absolutely. I mean, the panacea for inclusivity for me, and we're not there yet, but I can see organizations and society moving in this direction is, identifying that people who potentially are dyslexic or autistic or whatever it may be on the scale, is that this comes with advantages. Mm-hmm. So when we come to the point where, recruitment, training is, there's a dyslexic person on this panel, this means she should be strong in these areas. And it just takes us back to an interesting conversation that we'd done a presentation to the Rotary Club many years ago. And one of the people that were on it was a very early employee in Apple. And Apple was a very, very, very forward-thinking company. And in the early days when they were doing focus groups, they realized, and this is a compliment in a strange way, they had to take dyslexics, they had to identify dyslexics, and they had to take dyslexics out of the focus group, because the dyslexic would normally figure out what was going on in the focus group, which rendered the point of view invalid. And I just think that's incredibly powerful, that you've got such a powerful brain that it's going to figure it out. So therefore, you're not a person that can kind of be manipulated in the situation, which the focus group's trying to do.
Yeah.
If employees and employers noticed and harnessed this across the 6, 7, 8 million estimated people in the UK that are dyslexic, we have potentially completely different job roles for a person with this label.
I think as well that in reality, neurodiversity, we've got billions of neurons that are connecting. And so, as you were saying, that the labels will probably go. Neurodivergent conditions all overlap with each other. So often people aren't classically one thing. They're classically themselves. And I think that's really important, that if we are going to be personalized in terms of our support, it's understanding that and then taking those strengths and recognizing, harnessing the strengths of the individual and then marrying it with the team to see who's best to work together. And that's the exciting bit about the future, really, about inclusion. That's what really inclusion means, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I want to just talk about how tech can support people who are neurodivergent in workplaces. One of the things, as I think, is that being proactive is going to be really important. You have Recite Me, which I think is a really excellent tool, and that is a proactive process to attract talent into your companies as well, so that the application process is accessible and people can read it in a way that if they are dyslexic or English isn't their first language, you've got lots of accessible features. Do you think there are other ways we can be proactive as employers to be inclusive?
Can I just pull back to the point you made there before I answer that question? Is that okay? There's not many studies done of how many people are being missed, or there's not many studies of how many people's skills are being not taken advantage of because they're not using the right technology. Yep. But there's a few areas that they have, and one of the areas is online consumption of information. 83% of people who go to a website where their accessibility need is not met will go to another website. That in turn will create a displaced spending of £14 billion. But it's not the money I'm concentrating on. It's if there's this many people doing something different, just imagine how many people skills could be harnessed and how many people you're potentially missing by not allowing them to have the technology within your organization to meet their true potential. It's phenomenal, and yes. we've got to look at this in a positive way. There's so much potential that we've yet to untap.
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You never know who doesn't apply for your jobs, who could be your next best salesman, your next best solution, provide the new solutions for your company. If the minute they look at their website, they can't access it. And I think that's really important. I think we lose a lot of people just at that stage, and customers where you're selling goods as well. So I agree.
Can I give you a very, very out there scenario? So let's look at the scenario, and it's an imaginary scenario, okay? Right? Most applications now are online. Yeah. It's what happens in literature, poetry, you know what I mean? It's a beautiful part of the world, and so many people get so much out of the arts and theatre and the likes of that. Imagine if you were applying for a job and it was William Shakespeare who was dyslexic and couldn't apply for a job at a theatre because he was dyslexic. Imagine how much of like beautiful literature and art and we would have missed out if William Shakespeare didn't make it. How many people are potentially getting missed out because they haven't got an accessible recruitment process? So this is what I'm saying, it's untapped potential. We've got to look at the positive. It's untapped potential that's out there.
I think also it goes beyond the application process. So when it comes into the workplace, in internal working systems, in intranets and chats, this is also a place where accessibility support and usability support shouldn't just stop at your front door.
No.
At Recite, we actively discuss, we call it the digital landscape of our customers and their landscape of how they support staff. And, Recite Me is there for the journey to help them throughout everything. And I think, you need to continue to support people in the workplace, not just to attract them, to be able to harness and get the best potential out of their skills. I sort of going back to the question and making sure that, talent is attracted, obtained, but then also allowing them to foster.
And retained. And I think that's absolutely right, because in terms of your accessibility needs, they can change over time because tasks alter, the demands on you alter, the job alters, you alter. So I think that's the thing, that actually retaining talent is very important. And it is about people. It's about what do you need. It's not whether you are or you're not, or you are or you're not, but it is about what do you need and how can we support you. So I agree with you.
All about the individual.
All about the individual.
Certainly is.